Well, good evening, everyone. We've got an impromptu live episode tonight. We're not canceling next week's live. We're still going to be going live next week. But today, as I'll explain why we're doing live today, but I think we'll talk about Canada's potential dystopian future that the Privy Council is telling us about. So like and subscribe. Like this video right now and post a comment so more people will see it. But let's get into the episode. Good evening. My name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. Apologies to those who logged on earlier. There was a bit of a miscommunication between myself, my volunteer PR guy, Richard. Normally our lives are at 7. The monthly lives are at 7, but I had in mind, I'm just too busy to do a pre-recorded episode. Let's just do a live. We'll do it at 8. Maybe I can kind of slide it past people that this wasn't pre-recorded. But being live, he thought that, no, we're doing live at 7. So I was actually meeting with clients at 7. So my apologies to people for that, but thank you for sticking with us. I see we've got a few live and commenting, so thanks for sticking with us. As I said at the beginning, I got to get into the habit of trying to ask for the likes and subscriptions at the beginning. Especially likes and comments are what are going to, I think, help us break through to 10,000. That's what gets the videos noticed. So if you like my content, please consider liking and commenting so that more people will see my content. And lest I forget, I have to remind people that we do have these nice mugs available. We're selling them for cost. We're just plus shipping. Richard, I've forgotten how much these things cost. Is it $12? Some of that. Richard will throw something in the chat there. But the reason I didn't have time to record a regular episode this week is because I was pre-recording a very special episode for episode 250. So episode 250 will be not next week, but the week after. Should be May the 8th. So I just look at my calendar to make sure I got the dates right. We're going to have a friend of mine, Derek Frum, a lawyer from Alberta, one of the few lawyers that I'm on the same page with on a lot of things. Certainly people who've actually met me in real life and have sought to retain me have heard me say that I don't know other lawyers. I don't network with them because I find most of them to be ideologically opposed to a lot of the views that I hold dear. The Marxism is very strong in Canadian law schools, but Derek's an exception. I met him during COVID. He did a lot of great work during COVID. So I hope you'll join. Well, it won't be live. That's pre-recorded, but I really hope you'll tune into that one because we had a fantastic discussion. But it did take away my regular filming time. So here we are doing an impromptu live. And thanks, Richard just posted, it's $10 plus shipping for the mug. So we're not making profit off these. This is just kind of to get the word out about Don't Talk TV. Now, I've been wanting to do a movie review for a long time. I do those occasionally. It seems like it's getting more and more occasionally between them. I like doing movie reviews. I've been wanting to do Minority Report for a long time because pre-crime is definitely a thing entering Canadian law. But I think there's something more timely that we need to have a look at. And that's that Privy Council Future Live Social Mobility in Question report that Policy Horizons Canada, part of the Privy Council, put out. But before we go into the actual policy document, I just have to show some of what our media is doing. I mean, this, in my view, this is straight up propaganda. And you'll see why I say that once we look at the actual document. So the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, he, of course, latched onto this report, as well he should, as the leader of the opposition and one who wants to be the Prime Minister of Canada. So here's a CBC headline. Poilievre says a government report predicts a terrifying 2040. Here's what it actually says. So they're trying to suggest that the man is lying. And we're going to see what the report says. But unfortunately, the problem is a lot of people, especially those of certain age groups that still heavily imbibe legacy media. They're probably going to read that headline and think, oh, see, Poilievre's a liar, Carney's a good guy, elbows up, let's vote accordingly, and give the finger to everyone else. I should have had that picture queued up. Richard, if you get it, you can screen share that the Liberal supporter giving double birds to the camera. I mean, that's like the essence of this election, in my view, and the essence of the Mark Carney voter. But I digress. So it happens when we get onto a live episode. So Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre pounced on a government report that he argues predicts a terrifying world in 2040 to warn voters of the dangers of giving the Liberals a fourth term. But the actual report is far more nuanced. Yeah, well, we'll see how nuanced it is. Or nuanced or not, we'll see whether it paints a terrifying picture. So speaking to reporters Tuesday, Poilievre pointed to a policy report predicated on the idea that social mobility will severely decline in the coming decades as reason to not vote Liberal. Well, as we're going to see, in my view, we're already at 95% of the way to what this report's talking about. So that's reason not to vote for the Liberals, not what might happen in 2040. So he says, the report paints a terrifying picture of a spiral of economic depression and cost inflation, Poilievre says. But then, yeah, okay. Now here's the main quote here. Not only is the report far from that stark, its authors stress the document is not meant to be seen as predicting the future. Well, as you know, we're always into the facts, and unlike CBC, we show our work. Now, I think they probably linked to this, so I shouldn't accuse them of totally hiding this. But oh, here we go. Richard's got the whole Liberal support. Yeah, there we go. That's who's voting for Mark Carney. But I think it's very fitting because essentially people are voting for Mark Carney. That's what they're doing to their children and their grandchildren and to the rest of the country. They are really giving them the bird. So here's this policy horizons, future live social mobility in question. So let's just have a bit of a look at this here. So, I mean, here at the introductions, social mobility lies at the heart of the Canadian project. Many people in Canada assume that following the rules and doing the right things will lead to a better life. Anyone can get an education, work hard, buy property, and climb the social and economic ladder. This is an informal but powerful promise. So people have definitely believed this in Canada in the past. I think this is already going by the wayside. I don't know how many people still assume this. I think maybe certain older generations, probably people my age and older, still think that this promise is in effect. But I have children. Some of them are becoming adults. They don't feel this way, and with good reason. But this is while this is neither our desired nor the preferred future. Sorry, just to back up this. Things are changing. So CBC is trying to say that Poilievre is just making this up. This is all just speculation. They're not actually predicting anything. But no, they're making a positive statement right here that things are changing. Wealth inequality is rising. Children are already less upwardly mobile than their parents. And they explored this in previous of these reports. And so the scenario below paints a picture of Canada in 2040 in which most Canadians find themselves stuck in the socioeconomic conditions of their birth, and many face the very real possibility of downward social mobility. Well, in my view, this is already here. We don't need to wait till 2040. We won't even make it to 2030, I don't think, without many Canadians being stuck in the socioeconomic conditions of their birth. I highly doubt that my children will do as well as me. I mean, they won't be able to buy a house the way I bought a house, just for one example, because when I bought my first house, it was $180,000. Well, that same house is $750,000 today. And I'm making more because I've been working 20 years, but I'm not making that much more than I was back when I bought that first house. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing word for word, but let's look at some of the highlights. So post-secondary education. In 2040, pursuing post-secondary education is no longer considered a reliable path to social mobility. we're already there as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I've been telling my children to look at the trades, not $30,000 a year law school or $10,000 a year for an arts degree. You hear the stories all the time of all these millennials and Gen Z people that can't find jobs after degrees. So I think this is already here. Forget 2040. In 2040, owning a home is not a realistic goal for many. As I just said, that's already here. That's not 2040. Will it be worse by 2040? If things keep going the way they are, I don't see how that's some crazy conspiracy theory prediction to say that if things keep on the trajectory we're on, and the people who made the situation what it is now continue to be in charge, which is what appears to be poised to happen. I hope the polls are wrong. I don't think they're wrong, but I hope they're wrong. In 2040, people will see inheritance as the only reliable way to get ahead. Well, again already there. I mean, I'm Gen X, and I feel like I'm all kind of there. I mean, again, I'm old enough that I was able to buy a house at a reasonable price and therefore get ahead in that respect. But yeah, not the case now. And social siloing. So in 2040, people rarely mix with others of a different socioeconomic status. Now, this is one that I don't think is here yet. I think people do still mingle a bit more with other socioeconomic groups, especially at things like pro sports. But increasingly, as cost of living continues to go up, and when you got to get groceries instead of going to watch the Leafs lose, you're not going to be mixing with people of higher socioeconomic status, because only the rich people are going to be able to go to events like that, probably even restaurants before too long. So ask for AI policy implications. So this is where it gets interesting, right? Yeah, basic headshot says basically third world country where families support one another instead of government. Well, I agree with the third world. Will families be able to support each other? I hope they do, and I think that's the way people are going to be able to survive. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people are already very dependent on government, and that'll be a bit of the issue. And I think this is where we get into some of these they talk about policy implications that I think that's what this is really about, is preparing people to be more reliant on government. The government is going to come and save you from this situation. The government is going to, they're going to tax equity in homes. We've seen articles talking about that. Of course, again, they're saying that's all lies, but you can look up some articles on that, look up equity tax. The Toronto Sun ran some articles on that. And of course, everyone just yells at them that they're liars. No one can actually show that they're wrong. So trade unions could grow in power as workers become frustrated. Well, I mean, trade unions are already fairly powerful, and I think that goes back to trades being the way to go rather than overpriced university degrees. Property ownership will become more concentrated. Again, that's already underway. So this is no nefarious conspiracy theory for Mr. Poilievre to take from this that this is a realistic possibility in the future if the people who created this situation remain in power. And I stress that because there's one group of people, the Liberal Party of Canada, who have been in charge of Canada for the last 9 years. Anyone who's in their 30s or onward now will remember what life was like in Canada in 2015. It was a lot different than it is right now. So it's a little late in the day to still be trying to blame Harper for things. Prime Minister Harper, not my favorite, but he was I think the proof is in the results and what life was like during the years of his prime ministership. A lot different than it is today. People's mental health may suffer. Again, they're trying to say Poilievre is lying. He's some crazy conspiracy theorist. I mean, how much do you hear about mental health all the time? And absolutely, the stuff we're talking about is going to impact people's mental health. That's just obvious. Workers may seek greener pastures elsewhere. Again, that's already happening. Canada may become a less attractive destination for migrants. That's already starting to happen. Now, there's still plenty of countries that are not so much worse than Canada that they're more than happy to come here. But you see articles fairly frequently about setting record numbers of emigration out of Canada. People are leaving Canada. And yeah, more people in Canada, including recent immigrants, may emigrate. That's already happening right now. People might find alternate ways to meet their basic needs. So yeah, this is one that's been getting a lot of traction. You know, person-to-person exchange of goods, the horror, bartering without taxes. People may start to hunt, fish, and forage on public lands. Government may come to seem irrelevant. So this, I think, getting into this section, this is what this is about here, is we need to prevent this, right? The government, their policies, this is why there's going to be more censorship. I covered that in a recent episode. Actually, I think that was last week's episode, the censorship that Mark Carney is definitely promising. Mr. Poilievre, to a lesser extent, for him, it's more focused on if you dare to say anything against a certain country other than Canada, or a certain group of people, that's more Poilievre's thing rather than a broader censorship. So Headshot's asking, how can politicians and governments correct deep social cultural issues? Well, it's a lot, as with everything, it's a lot easier to destroy things than correct them. I think number one is you want to start healing our culture or allowing there to be a culture again. I mean, stop with the propaganda about how Canada's a post-national state. Stop with the massive influx of immigrants that's like so huge. The country's gone from 34 million before COVID to 42 million now. I mean, that's just... Have a look at my episode where I question whether Canada's immigration policy is a form of ethnic cleansing. I covered that there. I mean, step one would be stopping all that stuff. And then I think people might organically start working on it. And again, I mean, we see these warnings a lot. People may reject systems they believe have failed them. You know, this is a big concern of our government. It brings me back to my view that this is, this seems like preparing the groundwork or starting to lay the groundwork for, this is why the government needs to become more authoritarian. There needs to be more censorship, more government intervention in things. And we've already seen that progression in the last few years, and I think it's going to continue. Let me just go back to one here. I mean, this is, again, CBC is trying to make it like Poilievre's crazy liar to be talking about this, but I mean, look, how often do you hear about this in the news, about how there's so much racism that, you know, others may choose to blame immigrants or other identifiable group. If such scapegoating becomes widespread, it could generate serious social or political conflicts. I mean, that's what all the hate crime stuff is all about, and why they're constantly, in my view, adding to that. Hate crime laws have been around since 1970, but they keep adding to that. So Headshot asks, how does a government hold a divided nation together? Well, that's the problem. I mean, it's a lot easier to hold a united nation together, which I think we had. I mean, even in 2015, it was still a lot less divided than it is now. But if you go back even further, the further back you go, the more united you find the country. So the best way is to not divide the country, and our government has been doing that. But I think there are definitely things that the government can do, even small things, like just, it's okay to be Canadian rather than you should be ashamed of being Canadian. You need to despise your heritage. A positive messaging coming from the government saying Canada has a rich heritage. I mean, does anyone remember those heritage minutes from back in the 80s and 90s? I mean, I remember those well. Just little things like that can help bring a country together. People knowing their heritage and being proud of it, that's a huge thing, in my view, to people having more unity, having things that are more in common, having an education program that talks about what, rather than what divides us, what keeps us together. I mean, my children have never been in government school, but I've encountered lots of young people who have been to government school, and talking to them about what they learn in history and social studies classes is all Canada's terrible, Canada's awful, Europeans are terrible, the people who founded this country are all monsters, we should be ashamed. I mean, if you can destroy love for a country and patriotism and unity through that sort of indoctrination, the same can be true if you choose a different form of indoctrination, one that's positive, one that's loving your heritage, loving one another, rather than constantly scolding everyone and saying how these people are bad, those people are bad, as the government's been doing for the last several years. If the government was instead pushing a message of, we need to work together, we're all Canadians together, I think that would be, these are all things that could be done. I could go on probably for an hour of different things that could be done, things that I would do if I was ever in government. But that's starting to get a little bit off into the tall grass, as my friend from the southern United States would say. And we've about filled up the time of a normal episode, so I think we're going to cut it short here. Well, not cut it short, we'll end it here. But yeah, Franklin Davis said the trucker convoy started to unite Canadians. There was certainly unity at the convoy itself. I think the government did a lot to divide people, of putting people into camps of pro-freedom convoy, anti-freedom convoy. There's still people you can find today who think this was some sort of insurrection. It was terrible. Those people should have all gone to jail. But that said, thank you everyone who joined us. We actually had for an impromptu live, we actually had some pretty good numbers. So thanks for tuning in. This video, of course, is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, call a lawyer. If you want me to be that lawyer, my contact information is on the little banner thing moving along the bottom there. As I always say, we're always interested in topic suggestions or questions, so please send those to the email address going across the banner below, and we're happy to try to respond and give you content that you're interested in, because this channel is about education. We want to educate people sometimes on things I think people need to know, but also on things that people want to know. And if you did find this video at all interesting, helpful, or informative, please like, share, subscribe, follow us on social media, and let's get over that 10,000 hump, and then maybe we can start talking about 100,000 down the road.